Get connected, feel alive, meet your future.
Minnesota State Community and Technical College. Slightly less vocoded. No, it's not vocoded.
It's not vocoded at all.
No, but there's like a little bit of like sort of
Auto-tune?
chorus auto-tune twinge to it.
For those of you who are totally unfamiliar with what we just did.
That was a dumb radio ad we have to hear all the time.
A dumb
here.
radio and TV ad.
Yeah.
On Fox News. In our neck of the woods.
Mm-hmm.
For a local
community college.
That I attended.
A network of community colleges, I suppose.
Oh, at this stage, yeah.
Yeah.
They may have been independent at one point and then like conglomerated.
Yeah.
They were all the same. They were still
they were?
MSCTC.
Okay.
As long as I've known about them.
It's okay.
It was just like MST and then just like keyboard mash. I think the name was even longer than that before. Or was that the whole name?
MSCTC was the longest
like,
it was.
Let's just be M State. It's way easier.
Quite.
Because I remember I used to drive past their campus in my hometown, and I would just look at the name. It's like, I'm not going to bother reading that.
It's M.
Yeah. It's the tech college, as we called it. It's the tech college. That's what we called it.
Tech college.
Morgan Freeman needs to narrate more of our lives.
Morgan Freeman has stumped narrating 2020. And that's why everything's gone to crap.
Come on, Morgan, you had one job.
Sustain the universe in its being.
Babies are born in a field of kittens. He just speaks. Yes.
Yes.
When he cried his first tear, he became old. Video. I've yet to watch Shawshank Redemption.
It's so good.
I don't know why I haven't. I think it's on Netflix.
It's a long movie though.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. It's like that.
It's nearly 3 hours, I think.
Forrest Gump is another movie where it's like so long. I was like, I want to watch this because it's a classic.
Shawshank is totally worth it though.
Yeah, I imagine so.
Oh yeah.
I have Forrest Gump less so.
Forrest Gump is a good time though.
Yeah.
If you've watched it
it's
once,
more of
you
a
don't need to
pop
watch it
culture
again.
icon than a
It kind of
classic,
is.
I suppose.
Yeah.
I have not seen Shawshank either, but
we'll have to make that a movie night.
Yeah, we should make a point of that.
Yeah, I'm 90% sure it's on Netflix right now, or at least it was last
Yeah,
time.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah.
But that'd probably be well worth the watch, and probably an episode at some point.
Oh yeah.
But yeah.
I feel like enough people know about Shawshank that we don't really need to cover it.
Yeah. What? Well,
I mean,
it's
depending
like
on-
we don't really need to cover Star Wars or Lord of the Rings because other people have done it and done it better than we have. But
well, from our perspective, I mean, we did the whole MCU, and I'm sure other people have covered that
yes,
in a lot more
I'm
detail.
sure.
In fact, I know people did it in a lot more detail, which is kind of saying something considering how long those episodes were. But we were still figuring this thing out back then, I guess.
and I just felt like talking about Star Wars for an hour, so
Yeah. Wasn't hard to do.
I think our niche is more suited to more obscure media, but
Yeah. Like Wes Anderson movies.
like Wes Anderson and Edgar Wright films.
Yep.
or little indie games.
Mm-hmm. Or some of the more, I guess, maybe not indie games, but
But like more niche.
the most meritorious of the bigger games, I suppose.
Right. Because
Yes.
most of them aren't really.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Some games are just like a gameplay experience, and there's not a whole lot more depth to them than mechanics and how you know. But other games, there's a bit more depth to them, and then there's more we can get out of it.
Oh, speaking of games, did you finish Dark Souls?
I did finish Dark Souls today.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
I
What did you do?
I lit the fire.
You linked the fire. Okay.
it's the thing that everyone had told me to do, and I did, and
That's what I thought you would do.
and I thought that the option would be, what do I do now that I've linked the fire, not link the fire
you
or
are now
walk away.
immolated. You have died.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the ending you get?
That's the ending you get. If you link the fire, you essentially do exactly what Gwyn did, which is link the fire to his own soul. So now the fire is linked to your soul instead of Gwyn's. So it's feeding off of you instead of him now.
So you're the one sustaining the world.
You are the one sustaining...
You essentially burn out.
You are sustaining the age of fire, and you know that you will eventually burn out. But we're going to talk about Dark Souls
Hollow
next
Knight
week.
ending. Yes, this week.
Hopefully this week we can get James to suffer on the first boss a little bit, so he can get a little bit of a perspective, aside from having watched me play it and heard you
at
talk
least
about
like a general sort of
if you watch the opening cutscene, you will have as many hard facts as everyone else.
Right.
Because
everything else is speculation based on
it's not told to you. You can
experience it.
reasonably confidently assert that this thing happened based on what you see.
And what occurs in the game world, I suppose.
Yes, but it's not dumped on you like other games do. But anyway, we're not talking about that.
Nope.
Not talking
we
about
have
that.
not talked about it too much for the last 3 weeks.
No, certainly not.
No.
We will give it a full proper do next week.
Yeah.
When it's my turn.
We shall do. That we shall do. But we are...
I just like the game so much.
yeah.
I like it too now.
It's Nathan and Riley's jam.
Let's see if it gels with you.
Remains
if you
to
have
be
the
seen.
slightest bit of masochism in you, you're going to love it.
Or at least just a high BS tolerance.
Which, as we know, you don't.
I don't really.
So it'll be fun to watch you play it a little bit at all.
I guess I'm not so much a masochist when it comes to games as much as I'm stubborn.
If you're stubborn, Dark Souls can be
If you're
your
sufficiently
thing.
stubborn, you'll get madder at the game.
You will
but-
get
Yeah.
mad. You're just I'm going to beat you out of pure spite.
Yeah,
And there
that's
were
where.
2 or 3 points. We'll talk about that next
Yeah.
time. Let's stop talking about Dark Souls.
Uh-huh.
But it's so good.
It
Yeah.
is.
You guys are still going to be talking about it after we do our
Of
whole
course we
episode
will.
on it.
We'll probably
Well, 'cause
compare
the-
things to Dark Souls because it's a good thing to compare things to.
I'm gonna start explaining stuff to Nathan that he
Isn't
doesn't
Dark
know.
Souls nature's Dark Souls?
What do we say about true but unhelpful comments?
Our roommate raised the point that we haven't really talked about children's movies, but I'm not really
a children's
inclined.
Movies podcast.
Beyond Fantastic Mr. Fox can be construed as a children's.
It's a family film.
It's a family-friendly film.
Yeah.
It's not a.
It's not really a
film.
children's movie.
This podcast is not for children.
Yeah, I'm not really
No, the answer is pretty
pretty
not.
firmly.
I mean, we might do some of the really good classic things like The Lion King.
That's
or
the one
like
I brought up earlier,
Pixar, some of the Pixar
too.
films.
There's some really good Pixar stuff out there.
But beyond that, we're not gonna be going back and doing
Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, nothing like that.
as much as I love that movie, it's
Mm-hmm.
really.
I think we all need a little Stockholm syndrome in our lives, right?
Speaking of Stockholm syndrome,
hold on.
it's not really Stockholm syndrome. It's more like blackmail, but
Yeah, that's not really Stockholm. You didn't follow the. It'll be clear when we get the episode rolling. We're the Palladium Papists. I'm James.
I'm Nathan.
no, I'm Riley.
And today we are covering the film Baby Driver, which I believe came out, 2 years ago?
No, it was a little more than that.
A little more than that, 3 years ago?
2016, maybe?
Maybe back. I'll have to double check. But at any rate,
Jamie, pull it up.
it was. Hold on.
Not you, Jamie.
Oh, like the Joe Rogan.
Yeah, Joe Rogan.
Yeah. We don't have a producer besides me, just sort of glancing over to make sure the thing's still recording. But yeah, the movie is directed by Edgar Wright, which is one of our favorite directors. It's
2017.
2017. Okay. Yes. So the film is about, you have this guy in sort of this Atlanta crime movie, right? So you have this guy whose crime name is Baby, sort of a youngish dude who is really, really slick behind the wheel of a car, and he's a getaway driver for this criminal, I guess, mob boss. And as a kid, his whole backstory as a kid, his parents had a pretty rough relationship, and they got into a car accident when he was a kid. So now he has tinnitus.
With him in the back seat.
Yeah, with him in the back seat of the car. So he has tinnitus, which gives him a buzzing in his ears. So he listens to music almost constantly to help him, to try to cope with that. So that's one of his tics. And when he was a kid, he just started like driving in circles around the cops basically, and kind of ran off with one of the mob bosses, like vehicles full of valuable stuff or whatever. So, and he got caught by the mob boss, who was like, all right, well, you have to drive for me until...
Well, didn't he like destroy it or something?
He ran the car into a river or something like that.
Yeah. And so
all this valuable stuff was lost.
Yeah. So he's like, well, you got to drive for me from now on until your debt's paid back. And so towards the start of the movie, we see Baby, who is using his like cut of the bank robberies, jobs, and different things like that to pay back his debt. So he's just wrapping up this debt with the mob boss dude, and he's paid up, and he's like, all right,
one more job.
Yeah, he's got one more job, and he's done, as it were. Yeah. So he does the one more job. It doesn't go completely according to plan. It's a little risky, but he manages it. He's like, all right, I'm done. And so he tries to get an honest job as a pizza delivery man. He also takes care of his foster dad, who's deaf in a wheelchair, and so who is trying to like encourage him to get out of the criminal underworld. And he's taking care of him, and he also meets this this nice waitress at a diner, and they start dating.
Well, they discover that they have a mutual love of music.
Yeah,
that's sort of the
music.
premise for their meeting.
Yeah,
and that's important.
And so they sort of start developing a relationship, and Baby's starting to, enjoy his life on the outside. But then the mob boss dude is like, hold on a second, we're not done. Just because you were square doesn't mean you're done driving for me. So unless you want me to mess up your life and the life of that girl of yours over there, you better keep driving for me. And so obviously Baby's not too happy with that, but he's, doesn't want to hurt the people he loves. So he goes back for a couple of jobs, but all the while he's kind of looking for a way out. And so as time goes on, there's sort of, over the course of like the big job they're planning or whatever, there's some tensions between him and some of the crew people who are suspicious that he's like not all there. And all the while he's trying to keep his, girlfriend hidden from the other criminals and, try to get out somehow. And so as the film goes on, it culminates this one big job where Baby sees an opportunity to get out of it. And so he screws over the other people on the job and gets away, mostly on foot because of a whole bunch of shenanigans and stuff. But eventually, two of the criminals die. One of whom was sort of a lady that one of the criminals had eloped with, and they were sort of a couple. So he's really not happy that his girlfriend died because of Baby. So he tracks him down and basically takes him and his I think his was it Kathy was his I forget who the name of his girlfriend.
I don't know.
But so there's sort of the showdown where they're trying to escape the cops and this other criminal dude. And they go to the mob boss for help, who is like, at first he's like, screw you, dude, you wrecked my job, and now I have to go into hiding. But he kind of softens. He's like, okay, I was in love once, get out of here, grab a car, something like that. Helps him out and ends up actually sacrificing his life, sort of. Well,
he ends up dying.
He dies, yeah. And the criminal guy tracks them down and they have sort of a battle because he used to be a getaway driver too, and they kind of have the similarity where they both really like, music and driving cars and such. And so they have sort of this car duel for a little bit until the bad guy dies. And of course, the whole city is a buzz with cops looking for him, and so Baby and the girl get away for a bit, but then eventually they get stopped by the police, and Baby ends up going to prison. But he gets a fairly positive prison sentence because at several points along the way he was like warning people to like stay away, like apologizing to people that he had to carjack to escape, giving a lady her baby back after he like jacked her car or whatever, different little like acts of kindness in the midst of all the crime where people were like, he's kind of a good guy. And also like his foster dad is like he was forced into this situation. We'll get into that in a little bit, but yeah, so he gets a favorable sentence, and when he gets out of jail, him and his girl can finally enact their dream of going out of, or let's see, what was the little
Getting
line?
in a car they can't afford, on a road with no plans, or something that.
Just go driving down the road with a car I can't afford and a plan we don't have, or something like that.
Some romantic schmuck like that.
Yeah. So that's the general plot of the film, but some of the main merits of the movie, we'll get into. But the one thing I find kind of stands out about like Baby's characterization is that a lot of times when we see characters in films who are faced with like difficult or impossible situations, sometimes they sort of succumb under the weight of like the bad circumstances that they're in. But Baby in this instance, whose real name is Miles, which is funny because he likes to drive. His whole deal is like, he was forced into this bad situation through like, a mistake he made when he was young, but he's always been trying to like go straight and get out of it. He's been squirreling away his money for a long time so he can get out of town and, have a life free of, like the crime world. And so even though he's constantly going out of his way to, protect the people he loves, like his foster dad and like, his girl and all that stuff.
Yeah,
so
there was one in the first chase scene, I think, when there's a citizen with who's like a ex-military or something in his pickup with a gun, that one of his guys in the passenger seat was trying to shoot. Baby specifically maneuvers the car so it's impossible for the guy to get a clear shot. And like you said earlier, with the baby in the back seat of the car, the jack.
He does little things to protect the innocent, and some of the more hardcore criminals are like suspicious of him because of it.
Yeah, and then there was like one bank teller when he was casing out a joint that
he's like, by the way, you may not want to come in here tomorrow. Just saying. And then he sees her as she's like going into work, and she recognizes him and waves, and he's like, no, like get out. But little things like that. So he's constantly doing what he can in like a very tough situation to do what's right to the best of his ability. Another thing that's great with all Edgar Wright films is just how like snappily edited the film is. It's really well paced, and music is like very like deeply embedded in like the DNA of this film.
Yeah, it's not only integral to Baby's character and his relationship with Deborah, the girlfriend waitress, but also it's like integral to all the action scenes. He times his getaways to music. There's one point in the movie where his partners in the crime are about to leave, and he's like, no. He backs up the song. He
rewinds the song to start from
and
the
then
beginning.
He says, go.
Yeah. Little things
and
like
the whole
that.
intro scene is basically timed out to this song that the film rolls in with.
Most of the action sequences are timed
pretty
out
much
to
all
music.
of them. And like the one where they're hitting the post office, I think.
To the point where like sometimes when they're like shooting guns and stuff,
they'll like pause in the firing to like go along with the syncopated drum beats.
Yeah, the bursts are to the beat of the music, and it's really a lot of fun to watch.
One of my favorites was the opening credits scene where he's walking to and from the coffee shop when the the guys having a meeting.
It's like a long
and it's
tracking
all one
shot.
continuous shot of him walking. And as he walks past like street art and graffiti and stuff, the graffiti is the lyrics to the song that is playing in
like
the background.
random little places, yeah.
And it's really, really tightly put together.
It goes I think it kind of goes across like center frame, right? Is like, it hits that part of the song, which is kind of
it's
funny.
like so perfectly choreographed and timed
So
out.
you're just naturally reading the
one
word.
long shot, and it's really delightful.
It's like a tracking walking down the street with stuff going on shot that's kind of reminiscent of like Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah,
where he's walking to the appliance store for work, or the corner store as he goes to work. Yeah.
So very, very Edgar Wright in that respect. But.
Yeah. Yeah. There was and the music choices are pretty good.
Yeah.
I guess Edgar Wright's always been kind of a music guy. Like another movie is oh crap.
World's End.
Scott Pilgrim.
Scott Pilgrim.
Ah, yes.
Is it Saves the World?
Versus
the World. Okay. Scott Pilgrim versus the World also has
he
a lot
doesn't
of
save
music
anything but himself.
Right, yeah. Barely. That's another film that he really incorporates music, but
so it's already part of his style. He just made a movie.
He really
to
went
emphasize
all
it.
in on this one
Yeah.
idea that he had kind of used
Had
in
for
some
years.
of his other films.
well, he said like this movie is one he wanted to make for a long time. And it's kind of honestly like one of the best of the movies he's made that I've seen.
I think it's easily the best movie
Yeah.
he's made.
Yeah.
I think so.
The other ones like sort of blend together in terms of
Yeah.
the-
I mean,
Well, they're
The
all
filmographic
lighter-hearted
techniques
comedy.
they
yeah,
use.
Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz,
World's End.
World's End, like the ones with
Those
Simon
three-
Pegg and Nick Frost, like those ones are.
I mean, the fact that Simon Pegg is in every one of
Yeah.
them, and Piers Morgan.
This is
in
one of the
half them.
only ones that Simon Pegg isn't in that we've seen.
And then Scott Pilgrim was already based on a comic book, so stylistically it adhered more to the original art. So that one kind of stood apart as being weird and different.
Yeah.
But-
because the source of material was weird and different.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's some moments that are kind of cool. Is because he likes music so much, he also like records people saying things and makes like his own little
Mixtapes
out of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually kind of a plot point where he's
Because
like, "Wait a minute, this
you're
guy's got a
recording this?
recording device. What's this all about?" And he's like, "I make mixtapes." He's like, "That's a really dumb excuse." And then
They pop it in and listen to
they
it.
raid his house, take all these mixtapes back with them, and then they pop it in the track, and it's like, oh, it actually is.
Now we
it's a
feel
bunch of
dumb.
mixtapes. They're kind of questioning his loyalty and suspicious of him because at the time there's like some tension to that too because he's like trying to figure out a way out, and they can kind of sense that in him, but they can't really find any dirt on him. One of the what's the name of the actor who played kind of the crazy
Jamie Foxx.
Jamie Foxx, yeah.
Terry
Bats was
Crews.
his
I mean,
character.
Jamie Foxx.
Yeah. Yeah, Jamie Foxx. He
Gangster Terry Crews.
yeah. He's kind of this wild card character who's like, very like fully committed to like being a crazy criminal. And he's suspicious of
Very
people.
like unstable kind of guy.
Yeah,
Mhm.
very violent. And so he sort of clashes with Baby sometimes who's, trying to protect the innocent where like
he was the guy trying to shoot the army guy in the pickup truck.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. He and I think at one point they're supposed to meet like these people to get weapons for a job or whatever, and then he
could tell they were cops.
yeah
But they were cops under the control of the mob boss, and so when Bats Jamie Foxx character shot them all up, the mob boss was mad at him because hey, those are my cops.
Yep, and guess those are the guys who end up coming for him and killing him at the end.
Right.
Yeah. So overall, really well done film, really well shot,
Really
well
well put
edited.
together.
It's arguably
a
one of my
lot of it strength lies in like the technical
yeah
film aspects of it, but it backs it up with a really compelling story.
Yeah.
too.
With some really solid characters.
Yeah, it's fairly seamless. A few other things I like is like Edgar Wright likes to have characters who have like idiosyncrasies that are consistent throughout the film. Like, Baby, his deal is his mom was a waitress at the same diner he likes to eat at, and that's where he meets the girl. And he's got like a Deborah. That's who it is. Yeah.
Yeah. The whole point is they bond over the lack of songs with the name Deborah in it, but they both come up with one.
Baby is like almost all the songs in the world have that in there.
He reminds me of my brother Isaac a little bit, actually. Shout out to you who isn't listening to the podcast. I don't think you should be. Why am I telling you here?
I think one of the fun things about Baby is that he wears sunglasses everywhere.
Oh yeah. He's got like secret stockpiles of sunglasses.
So one of the criminals is like
up in his face,
like this kid, he
Swipes
doesn't talk. He's just sitting here doing his thing. So like steals the sunglasses, turns around, Baby pulls out another one, and just slaps it on, and keeps going.
So every time he turns around, he's got another pair of sunglasses, so he keeps putting them back on, just kind of nonchalantly. He's kind of like straight faced and doesn't really emote very much. Tries, he's got a decent poker face and. But yeah, it's kind of.
There's this one other scene where he's like, like playing piano on the table, just like playing out the fingerings. And one of the other criminals like accuses him of not paying attention, and then the mob boss is like, "Well,"
and he repeats the plan verbatim.
Repeats the plan word for word,
because
in the same rhythm tempo that the mob boss was explaining it, because he had his headphones in and was listening to something this whole time.
Yeah,
but living with a deaf guy and having tinnitus, he became a really great lip reader.
Yeah, because another thing too with the filmmaking aspect comes in is like all we hear is the music and we can't really hear. It's kind of muffled, like what the people are talking about, until like they're like, "Hey, baby, what do you know what the plan is?" And then he
repeats
it the whole time.
I need 4 pairs of ears and 4 sets of eyes and 3 pairs of ears.
Yeah. A interesting sort of kind of an not really nemesis but sort of antagonist is like the guy, I forget what his name was.
Guy?
The guy who like the guy and the girl, what was the guy's name?
I don't remember.
They have like their criminal code names or whatever.
And it was like they were like Bonnie and Clyde or something.
Yeah.
Not those
not
exactly.
Quite like that, but it was a similar sort of thing.
I forget what they called themselves.
He sort of becomes an antagonist towards the end.
He was one of those guys who was like on Baby's side the whole time in the start. He's like the one who kind of understood him.
Yeah.
But
because they had a lot in common. They both loved music. They both
they bonded over Queen, I think.
Yeah. They're like, what's your song that like gets you going? Like your song. You could just drive super fast and you're in the zone, that type of thing. And like they're bonding over that type of stuff. But
by the end of the movie, he kind of becomes an anti-Baby. Almost.
Yeah.
Like a dark, twisted reflection of what he could be if he had stuck around for too long.
Because we sort of get an idea that he was he sort of left an honest life behind, or semi-honest, like he was like this apparently a Wall Street guy who ran off and like abandoned his family and stuff. And so he's sort of like the mirror opposite of Baby that way, and that he's abandoning the people he was supposed to love, and then pursuing a life of crime, whereas Baby's trying to get out. But they have those things in common. So they make an interesting like sort of what's like the literary term for like your shadow or whatever.
Anti-hero?
Anti-hero, yeah.
No.
Not like that.
Thematic parallel?
Yeah, thematic parallel, stuff like that. Like the foil, as it were. I'm forgetting the term.
Yeah.
But, or it might be shadow, I forget.
I don't know.
Where it's like, I'm like you, but bad. Like Shadow the Hedgehog. They have to go fast.
Out of the edge.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Excellent. Yeah. I guess what are some other noble features of the film? And Nathan, you kind of know a little more about this than I do, but some of the music choices that keep points in the movie were...
I didn't recognize all of them, but one of my favorites was a song called Hocus Pocus by a band called Focus, and it's so weird. It's like a rock jam session where a guy yodels in the middle and they have a flute solo. It is so nuts as a song, and sort of time and action scene to it with all the breakdowns of the yodeling and flute like being the calmer moments of the fight before the electric guitar jam session comes back in. So fun. So a little bit goofy, but so fun. And then there were a couple other ones, like the Queen song they were talking about at the beginning of the movie was playing in the background of the final confrontation between them, between Baby and the other guy who we collectively forget the name of.
Yeah.
But it kind of represented that relationship they had and that parallelism they have. So there were some really effective and kind of funny choices of music sometimes. Because there's so many songs with the word baby in it.
Yeah.
And so there will be times where he's in a situation and the perfect song to ironically talk about that situation comes up. It's so good.
Yeah. And some of the fun moments are where he's like doing sign language with like his foster dad in their house. And but he's deaf, but then he can
he could still like read his body language
and feel like the vibrations of the speakers of the music he's blasting. He's like
dancing. And
he's like, who's the girl?
Who's the girl?
And he's generally like a. Initially, he took care of Baby after his parents died, but then over time, as Baby got older, he came to take care of him. Another good deed that he does is like in the midst of being chased down by the cops and these criminals that want to kill him, he manages to take his foster dad and put him, in a nursing home where he can be taken care of and safe from all the danger. So that's kind of a cool thing. Another, I guess, testament to his good character is at one point, like, it starts out where like the gal Deborah, she is like, she's at first kind of unaware of like, what he does for work exactly. Like he's a driver. That's all he really tells her. But as she gets more and more of an idea, she's kind of more and more committed to help him get out of that. And runs, tries to go on the run with him.
And actually, it's interesting because when the police show up and they get cornered, she tries to turn around and, run away from the police again. But Baby makes the decision to turn himself in.
Yeah.
I think that's the point where had they turn and run away together, they could have become the criminal couple we met earlier in the film.
Yeah.
But Baby makes the right and honest decision to turn himself in and set things
right.
Face
the music, as it were.
Yeah, so you could put it that way.
I kind of like the ending too, where like they, when he gets out of prison, they ride off into the sunset in like this 1950s style car.
With 1950s style music and all that. Yeah,
just kind of.
But it was an interesting lead up to that because you were totally not expecting to get slapped with him going to prison,
right?
Which was I think would have been a more fitting way to end the movie, but it was still a satisfying ending.
Yeah.
And during the court case, when they bring up all the little side characters that he had a meaningful one-on-one interaction with earlier in the film and did something to help them or save them from what he was doing, it gave you this impression of the character that kind of covered the whole movie and how consistent he was in his morals and his desire to do good and get out.
And kind of over the course of the like the final, comeuppance, as it were, the all the people who are like threatening him before are dead. So like he manages to escape the criminal world and finally start his new life by, instead of running away from the consequences, facing the music.
And indeed having to continue running for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
Right.
He's still committed to the idea of like, going straight, that, and starting a life for himself where he's in control, where he's willing to, make that sacrifice and spend the time behind bars to accomplish that. So that's pretty cool. Really well written character. Yeah. So I guess we could probably do our little analysis.
Our
bit.
transcendentals.
Transcendentals.
Transcendental time.
Pizza time. Yes. So truth. Well, I guess there's sort of an element of not really the truth will set you free in this, but like owning up to like being accountable for your mistakes, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
That's like one of the
and
main
accepting
themes.
the consequences for your mistakes.
Yeah, because you sort of get the impression that, when he was a kid stealing cars and, driving like crazy all over the place, he's sort of running away from his past and his difficult childhood. But over time he has sort of, faces the consequences of his actions to, in the end, go to the right. And like let's see. Also, like, he who lives by the sword will die by the sword, as like all these criminal people who are like violent and killing cops and, have very little regard for human life. Like the one crazy guy played by Jamie Foxx. They all kind of meet their demise, by the life they'd lived. Sort of a interesting character too is like the mob boss. He kind of reminds me a bit. I don't know if you guys have seen The Departed, but like Jack Nicholson's character, he's also like another sort of mafia type.
I have
but
not
like
yet seen Departed. I've heard it's a movie.
I don't know that you can really classify him as like a mob boss.
What do you mean?
Because he's like, he doesn't like run. He's not part of an organization. He's
True,
sort
yeah.
of independent.
Yeah, he's more of a crime boss, I guess, would be a better thing to say.
He kind of has connections. He has people,
he organizes people,
but he sort of gets other independent people to do jobs for him. So I mean, it's not like he's involved in some deep-seated
right. He just
Gotham
has like
City
his own
kind
like
of thing.
network. He's sort of He's
just a guy that knows people.
It's kind of important because he would,
he's not
get
a mafia
hunted
type.
down by the rest of anyone else who worked for him if that were the case.
He's sort of
In fact, I think he said he made it a point of never using the same team twice.
Yeah. The only thing
possibly more out of superstition than anything.
Yeah, because he has
because he mentions that like Baby's got to be his lucky driver
because
he's pulled off every job that Baby's
done.
been involved in.
Yeah. In this movie, Kevin Spacey was typecast as a criminal. Just had to get that out of the way off my chest. But yeah. Where was I going? Oh yeah, it's kind of similar to like Jack Nicholson and like his character in that movie. He takes like this kid, basically sort of lures him into this criminal world and kind of makes him like a tool, but it turns out differently for that character in that movie. But that's sort of what it reminded me of. Departed is another good movie to watch. That I think we have it on DVD in here somewhere. But yeah, let's see what's another truth elements in there.
I think Baby's ability to not let the bad situation dictate him, right? He has to deal with the situation he's in, but he won't. He stays true to his morals. He doesn't he doesn't compensate his beliefs, his moral compass.
Because that's a good lesson for all of us too, I think. Because sometimes we feel like when there's stressful situations or really difficult situations, we sort of give ourselves.
There's only so much you can do in certain situations,
right?
But you can do it in a way that aligns with
like make
the
most of it. Because it's easy to like make excuses for ourselves and then like
slowly spiral into the people we're surrounded with.
Downward spiral.
Yeah. Which, there are instances where things are genuinely not your fault and don't it's kind of a fine line to walk. But, no matter what, do your best in difficult situations to, be a moral person. Cuz that's in the end all you can control is you. So that's one of the truths I think is really carried out in the film. Let's see. I guess goodness, kind of a similar thing,
right? Where Baby's relationship with his foster dad, the way he tries to protect his girlfriend, the way he tries to protect everyone around him that gets involved through happenstance. It's his good actions that save him in the end, or.
Because like he sort of teeters on the edge where like in the movie all he does is drive, like he doesn't use guns or anything like that, but at the end he ends up like picking up a gun to use it against this guy who's threatening Deborah. That
isn't how he ends up dying.
No.
He drives off a cliff or
off a parking garage,
ramp.
like upper story. Yeah. But he's sort of he's sort of on the verge of like snapping, but he manages to
right. He makes the decision to stop the car and turn himself in, which is like I gotta do this straight.
The sort of the climax of his character conflict. Yeah. Beauty. There's a lot of elements like we talked about. It's a very well composed film all around.
The shots, the editing, the music choices,
the pacing,
the weight, all really excellent.
The action sequences, the dialogue is pretty good. There's some funny little character moments, like the one guy who's kind of the dumb criminal. In one of the jobs he's in, he's like,
with the Michael Myers masks.
Yeah, get the Mike Myers Halloween. It's like,
and he gets the Austin Powers.
He gets Austin Powers masks. Austin Powers Halloween masks.
I put the Asian in Home Invasion. So dumb.
That character has sort of a sad ending, but I love the little bit where they're looking back. It's like, what are these? You said to get the Mike Myers from Halloween costumes. Like, this isn't Michael Myers. This is Austin Powers.
Yeah, Michael Myers.
What?
Oh,
no!
You mean the guy from Friday the 13th?
No! Little things like that. What's another one? That's one of the biggest.
There's a lot of great characters in this movie.
Yeah.
I think Edgar Wright does a good job with like character and making the characters fun and interesting and likable on some level, or like understandable at some level. So I think like the way the characters are handled, there's always every character has one little moment where they shine.
And he always resolves things he introduces in the first act.
Oh yes,
he ties up every string.
In this movie, it was the various witnesses. I feel like, and some of the remixes came back.
Yeah,
in interesting ways.
Yeah,
that the guy made.
Yeah, and also like the mixtape with his mom. He's sort of protective.
Yeah,
that because his mom was also a singer, and so it wasn't a mixtape. It was like a tape recording of like his mom singing.
Because at the end of the movie, there's only he has the opportunity to save one of his tapes that he made, and that's the one he saves, and that's the one we hadn't heard for most of the movie.
You sort of see it like in the stack of the other ones, but it's not really has attention drawn to it per se.
And one other thing I remembered is that toward the end of the movie, he gets like a gunshot near his ears.
Oh, so yeah, he's like temporarily deaf.
I felt like the impression I got is that it was more permanent than that.
Yeah,
that he kind of lost something he valued.
A good portion of his hearing.
Yeah, you know, I mean, you could still hear at the end, but I felt like the way the audio was mixed at the end of the movie, like he had lost a lot more hearing, which was to me like a major sacrifice to his character for how much he loved music and stuff. And even if it was temporary, that small portion
like
of the
his
film.
Foster dad can like put his hand on the speaker and hear kind of feel the music, which is kind of a neat thing. Because I think it's kind of muffled for him, but then he puts his hand on the speaker,
and then it clears up. So really good audio mixing.
Yeah, really good like audio storytelling too. Because it's easy enough. It can be easy enough to tell the story with like the shots and the visual, but then also supplementing that with the music and the and like different audio editing, things like that are really cool. Then
the action scenes are well choreographed, well shot, and just well pulled
very good,
off,
very good
well put
acting
together
by everyone involved.
Oh yeah.
Then Unity, I guess, is just like how we say cohesion every week when we talk about Unity, but I mean seriously, this film is very like tightly knit.
It is knit around the musical element.
Yeah. There's not really a whole lot of
axis of its cohesion.
It knows exactly what it wants to do, and it does it really well.
Every scene serves there's not really any dead weight in this movie. Every scene sort of contributes to the overall story.
Even the part where he's watching Monsters, Inc.
Yeah. Like
it's like flipping through channels absent-mindedly.
And like all those channels like have something meaningful in them. There's Monsters, Inc. at one point. There was another.
He quotes it and he's like, "You and I are a team. Nothing's more important than our friendship." And he's like, "Stop quoting Monsters, Inc. to me."
Oh yeah, he says that to like the crime boss guy at some point. Just kind
So
of funny. He's trying to prove his loyalty, little things like that. Oh yeah, another funny little. This isn't really on the Unity track, but another little moment where like, the boss takes Baby to like case out this place where they're going to steal like the money orders or whatever in the final
In the post office.
And so he's like,
he brings his nephew with him.
Mm-hmm. Who seems, like this 10-year-old or whatever, who's like not really paying attention. But then like as they go in, Baby's like trying to case out the place.
And the kid's already got it.
Yeah, the kid looks up from his video game and then he like lists off where all the cameras are, the employees and the security guards and stuff to him. And he's like,
thanks.
Thanks.
And that was that character was actually kind of another interesting little parallel to Baby's situation, because this is a kid.
Yeah.
In the midst of this criminal organization or crime, whatever, and he's already really good at what he does.
Being corrupted by his uncle.
Right. And so you can see he's on a similar trajectory as Baby is.
Mm-hmm. So
really just like this interesting little parallel moment and kind of bond that the two have for like that little scene they're in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That was interesting and stood out to me too.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I guess any other key elements? It's got some depth to it, the movie overall, but it's not like
it's not something you need to watch 3 or 4 times
for the most part
out of it.
Right.
Maybe 2, but
for the most part, what you see and hear is what you get.
Yeah.
And what you see and hear is really well put together.
In the flashbacks, you kind of piece it together.
Yeah.
Pretty easily.
Yeah. It doesn't require multiple rewatchings. It's just that much fun.
It's not
to
like
watch.
Dark Souls, where you have to play it 500 times to understand it.
To understand any of the plot at all.
Mm-hmm.
Or have a friend in
Dark
a
Souls
Wikipedia.
I know, I did that on purpose.
Look at the unity of this episode. It's very cohesive.
We already talked about it. It's music.
Mm-hmm.
We're done.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well. Trying to think of a good outro to the episode, but I'm not as inspired as I've been for closing recently. But
you haven't gotten that sweet, sweet inspiration.
Yeah, sweet inspiration. If you want some sweet inspiration, you should
listen to the rest of our episodes.
Listen to the rest of our episodes. If you
Where can we
already.
find them?
You can find them on Stitcher, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, which is most of our 2 listeners tend to listen on.
Where, in fact, all 2 of our 2 listeners listen.
Yep. Which we appreciate.
We lost a follower. We're down 7 again.
What?
That's such a sad, big cry.
Wah, wah. But thank you to those who stick around, the faithful 2. Who stick around.
Faithful 2.
To the proud.
They'll get it when they hear it.
But yeah, no. Follow us at Palapapus on Facebook, Twitter, and send us an email, platingpapus@gmail.com. If you have anything to say, suggestions, comments, whatever. Complaints. Give us a reason why you left us, you cool person. And at least tell me why.
If he's left, you won't hear it.
But yeah, no. Until next week, we Plating Papers. Yeah, we'll catch you on the next episode. Later.
Bye.
Bye.
Peace.